Welcome back, future viewer. Today we're starting a new series where no face, just my voice, just gonna be yapping and casually play some Minecraft. Just like we originally did when we first started streaming, but this time not live. Pre-recorded per message, I guess. So today's topic: life is too complicated. It's way too complex for a single individual mind. And we're going to dive into what I actually mean by that. And I had a video that, was explaining how the older you get, the more you start to understand the world, everything around you, your environment, people, the nuances and the small details that make life and humans human, and the world or the universe what it is and what it could become, what it has been. Not everyone, so there's the term ignorance is bliss, which more and more I start to understand why people are ignorant or choose to be ignorant, or maybe not even choose to, but just are unknowingly ignorant, right? The reason there are disagreements or disparities, or it's kind of hard to explain, but the reason there is less understanding amongst each other is because we choose not to understand each other, right? And when I say life is too complex, there's a myriad of ways that can apply to different things within life. And the reason this kind of came up for me is, with everything going on lately, I feel like there is so much division and disagreement going on, especially in America right now. But then there's also so much behind the scenes that is going on. And for a single individual to truly understand the reality of things, it's almost impossible, to be honest. Like, our human minds are, yes, we are the smartest beings in the universe. At least we'd like to think so. Well, compared to animals, we can say we are. Compared to what we know, we can say we are. But even then, a single individual cannot understand everything that there is to understand about certain things. So let's get into some more detail so I can further explain what I actually mean. How about going back to ignorance is bliss, right? A lot of us choose to not understand things because the more you try to understand, the more you realize the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And things become harder and harder to actually grasp. Because you may think you know something, and then someone else has a different opinion on it. Or someone else presents you with different facts. And you're like, what? Well, now there's this. And now I'm conflicted because there's also that. And also what I thought I understood, there is someone on the complete opposite side. There are people who are reaffirming my ideas, but there's also people who are completely against them. There's different sides to the coin. And for a single individual to understand all sides of the coin is extremely difficult. To be honest, I don't know. Even now, I am very confused on the direction I want to take this explanation, so-called explanation that I have. Basically, what sparked this conversation or this session of yap is I am a very deeply curious person, and I know there's a lot of other people out there who are similar, but I also know there's a lot of people out there who are not. In fact, the majority of people are not. They understand something, and usually that something reaffirms their current bias or what they choose or want to believe. So they find an idea or some factual information that supports their belief, and that's it. They don't delve deeper into it. But for me, for example, and some of my peers and other people that I know of choose to further understand all sides of the coin or the cube, the example that I usually use. Right? When you see something or when you believe in something, you try to find out all aspects of it so that you can truly understand it to the fullest. For example, there's a saying that to win an argument, you have to know your opposition's argument better than they know it themselves. Only then can you truly win an argument, right? Because understanding their perspective will help you create and build a proper logical argument of your own to argue your side of the story. But in doing so, you spread yourself thin, basically. It becomes extremely hard to fully understand every aspect of something. Some things, not necessarily, right? Like, sand is made from rocks that are constantly being beat around and crushed and smoothed down till they become fine bits of what we call sand. And then, so you learn that, right? And from that point, you go, okay, so what causes this? So if you further try to delve into that, right, fully understand it, what causes this? Usually water or the weather, the environment will cause sand or rocks to break down, roll, break, be crushed, and over thousands and thousands of years eventually be so small, be so granular that we can consider it sand. And then, so from that point you're like, okay, now you understand what sand is and how it's made, how it became what it is. So that's not too complex, but that's one example. And over history, which, we all try to learn as we grow up through the school system, and through thousands and thousands of years of humanity or just the universe existing, there is so much more to understand, right? So let's say, like, why, especially when it comes to society and psychology within society, like, why do people do this or think that? Well, maybe because of this, maybe because of that. But then why this? Why that? And then you keep going down to what's called first principles thinking, basically breaking something down to its root cause. And usually the root cause comes from history or the past. In most cases, you won't find the root cause of something within a few questions. Questions will go further and further until you start to go back in time and find the root cause in a historical context. For example, where did slavery come about? You could say like, oh yeah, well, in America, people had slaves, but before then people had slaves. In ancient Egypt, people had slaves. Why did they do this? Because there's the disparity between the rich and the poor. There's the disparity between different races or cultures or ethnicities, or conquering of kingdoms. And then you could simply stop at that. That's where the kind of ignorance comes in. Like, oh yeah, well, that's the answer. So that's what I believe. But there's more to it, right? Well, what started it? What caused the human psyche to believe that they are better than another human? So where does this ideology truly come from? What is the root cause of master and slave, right? And I don't have the answer, but there are further questions that can further develop that idea. And this is what I mean by, now in today's world, where there is so much going on and so many billions of people with so many different minds and ideas and cultures and histories and opinions, you will find a different answer and a different perspective on almost anything and everything, from as large as the meaning of life or what the universe is, to as small as what color is this flower, right? Someone could simply say white, but what if the person's colorblind? And what if color blindness is not a defective trait at all? And what if that is the truth? And then you can ask, what is truth? What is truly factual? Is it something that is a universal law, or is it something that the masses just agree upon, so it has become fact? And all of this, again, is too much for a single individual to truly understand. I mean, that's why we are a community-based creature. So we bounce ideas off of each other, and when we learn from each other and understand each other, and we have agreements and disagreements and different opinions, and that's what also helps us grow. But at the same time, it hurts us, because there are things that we can agree upon, but there are a lot of things that we don't. And it is those disagreements that cause fights, wars, arguments, debates, and separation, division in many different aspects. So unfortunately, I've seen where people say like, oh yeah, you're cursed with knowledge. You're cursed with wanting to know more. And the reason people say you're cursed is because, ignorance is bliss. The less you know, the less you care, the less you desire to know more. Whereas the more you know, or the more you care, the more you want to know more, that rabbit hole is so endless. You end up too flustered. You end up overthinking. It's beyond your comprehension and your ability to hold information, to understand information. Because our brains are an archive, but there's only a certain capacity that our brains can manage or hold, in this little archive. So some people would argue, like, why do you need to understand? If you're not able to truly grasp all aspects of something, why even put in the effort? You're just going to spread yourself thin. In a lot of cases, that's not healthy, because your mind ends up racing way too much. And also, in today's day and age, with information at your fingertips, it is more than ever before in the history of humanity more complex for any single individual to try to understand and comprehend a lot of information. Because we have the world's information at our fingertips with AI, with, Google. Anything you'd like to know, you can find out within seconds. But because there's an overflow of information, you don't actually know which information is true. Because there's a lot of falsified information, whether on purpose or not. Again, some ignorant people think that whatever they have discovered, which confirms their bias, is truth. So they put it out as truth. And now they say, hey, this is truth. Put it out into the internet for the world to know. And now you think that this is truth because someone said so. Even a professional, a doctor, a scientist, a physicist says, I found out this information and this is factual/true. And because of your bias, you think, oh, if this person said this, then it must be. And, some people can purposely falsify information. Some people unknowingly falsify information. And it's very, very difficult to actually figure out what is true and what is false. And there's also people who control information, right, in today's day and age, because they don't want certain things to get out, because they don't want people to know about certain things. With social media, with the media in general, you can falsify information. Or you can distract with smoke and mirrors. And that is happening a lot in today's society. There are agendas that the upper echelon want to push to help themselves in a selfish world. And, this can kind of lead to the people in power stay in power. There are a lot of people with lots of money, resources, or status who want it to stay that way for them. And in doing so, will control the narrative so that it does stay that way. And a lot of people who are ignorant, whether choosing to be or just are dumb enough to be, will just simply accept the narrative. Now, there are a lot of people who don't, and who do try to push an objective truth, a universal truth, universal facts, or go against a certain narrative that unknowingly may be hurting the masses, the people. The separation between the upper echelon and other communities. Right? So that could be the sense of economics and politics. Societal factors. But it's not just simply that. It can also be in science, physics. Yeah, there's just like so many. I think I chose a topic that's a little too broad. Because even when I do try to break it down into specifics, I end up spreading myself too thin, even on this topic itself. Anyway, let's try to further delve into this topic. Because I bring it up, overthinking at night. In trying to go to sleep, I end up delaying my actual sleep because I'm thinking too much. Life is way too complicated. You think one thing and you understand one thing, and then something else comes up. Apparently, today's society has the highest amounts of depression cases in young people than ever before, right? Now, is this true? Studies say yes. But then again, what kind of studies are these? Are they fully comprehensive studies? Can we truly trust these studies? And even from these studies, how do we define depression? Because some people are arguing that, social media, with the rise of social media, there are more depressed individuals, especially younger people, than ever before. Is that proportional? 100 years ago, we didn't have 8 billion people. So of course, as there's more people, there will be more depressed, a higher population of depressed individuals. Is it really social media? Is it a causation or a correlation? Do we just correlate the rise of social media with the rise of depression? There's a lot of these questions that we can ask ourselves, each other. But unless you're spending all your time in a specific topic, it's going to be very, very hard to find the answer. That's what journalists do, essentially, right? Investigative journalists. They try to really find the truth of something. But usually, they focus on a certain topic. And even then, unless you spend your life's work on a specific topic, you will have skewed information. Just because of the amount of information that is out there, and how can you actually prove that the information that you're looking at is 100% true? And along with that, are you understanding it the way it was intended to be understood? Your perception is everything. In today's day, or not in today's day and age, in this universe, in this world, everybody's perception creates their own reality. There's a saying that there are infinite versions of you. Not in the sense of, there's alternate dimensions and there's a different version of you in each dimension. That's theory. No one can actually prove that. But there are infinite versions of you in this world. There is the version of you that you perceive, that you create, that you try to put out to the world, to others. And then there's the version of you that every single individual that you meet has created of you. Your best friend sees you in a certain way that you may think is similar to the way you see yourself, but there are small nuances that would say otherwise. Every family member sees you differently. Every friend sees you differently. Every stranger. Every short interaction outside with any single individual, that person will create a version of you in their head, and thus there are now infinite versions of you the longer you go through life. So life is all about perception, right? So you will perceive something, even if it's a factual, objective law of the universe. The way you perceive it will differ from the way your friend perceives it, from the way the person next to you perceives it, from the way a stranger or a family member perceives it. Two people will never truly see something the same exact way. Maybe something as simple as, oh, this is the color red. Okay, yes, I agree. It is red. So, objectively, we see the same thing the same way. But it could be more complicated, like, oh, America is the land of the free. Well, what does that actually mean? And my perception of a free country will be very different from your perception of a free country. Mainly in the fact that you and I, had different upbringings. Because a lot of your perception is molded and curated from your upbringing and your environment and your personal experiences. It could also differ for different people in different sides of the world. For example, me and someone like a neighbor who kind of is around the same age, also grew up in the LA area, same social class, same ethnicity, we may have very similar opinions on things, but still there will be some small differences. But the differences will not be as small as, or will not be as big as someone on the opposite side of the world, as someone in a different age who is a different age, a different social class, a different ethnicity. You know, life is all about perception. Again, that is why it is very, very difficult to have objective truth. Now, there are laws of the universe, like 1 + 1 = 2. But then again, it's not as simple as saying, oh yeah, 1 + 1 = 2. Everyone in the world can agree. It's a fact of the universe. No matter where you are, no matter who you are, 1 and 1 will always equal 2. I mean, yeah, you could say that, but also, who invented the idea of addition? You know? Who invented numbers? Who invented math? Because those weren't just given to humans. Like, the universe didn't say, hey, here's something called math. And within math, you have these numbers. And within numbers, you can add, you can subtract, you can multiply, you can divide, you can do all these different things. Now, you could argue that those were discoveries, right? And we just formulated words and sayings and theories based upon these factual laws. For example, if you grab a rock and you use a word to describe the quantity, and that word is 1, and then you grab another rock and put it in your hand, now your quantity of rocks that you possess has increased, has doubled, using the word that we invented, doubled or increased. 1 and 1. Now I have 2. But what factual law is presented in this case is that I possess 2 rocks. If I grab another one, I now possess 3, right? Of course, you can replace these words in any other language with even a completely invented language. Like if you invented your own language, like you can say like, oh, for me, it's not 1 and 2. It's blé and blah and blue. You know, words are an artificial creation of society. And that's proven in the differences of language. If language itself was truly a universal fact, then we would all speak the same language. So yes, life is complicated. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but you can choose to not care so much. You know, again, some people choose to not care. Some people are just not smart enough to care. People are very accustomed to bias. I don't know if that's the right word, the right way to say it. If something affirms your bias or what you think to be true, most people will easily accept it. Okay. Let's get into some more specific examples. I just learned that when you buy organic food from the grocery store, that doesn't actually mean anything. Organic is not actually healthier than non-organic foods. It's just a label that the government said, oh yeah, if your food is grown in a certain area, you can label it organic and you can charge a higher price because people will fall for that idea. Did the government actually, say this? Maybe not. But people fall for it because they're ignorant, right? Even I fell for it. Before literally a month ago, I used to purposely try to buy organic food, thinking it was somehow healthier. But allegedly it's not. Legally, actually, it's not. Legally, organic food does not mean it is in some way healthier or less artificial than other foods of the same thing, other same foods in the same aisle that are not labeled organic. And organic ends up being more expensive because you're thinking you're paying for something that is healthy. It's a marketing tactic. It's a scam. It's a way for the American capitalist society to feed on your consumerism, which is unfortunate, because 99% of people will not dive deeper because it just reaffirms what you know or what you think you know or what you want to know. Oh yeah, so people say organic is healthier. I want to be healthier. I'm gonna buy organic. But did you ever actually stop and think what organic truly means? The company who's selling you the food says, oh, organic is better, buy our food because we don't use pesticides. You immediately think, oh yeah, well, based on my current knowledge, pesticides are bad, and if they're not using pesticides, it must mean it's way healthier. Who told you this? Right? The company that's trying to sell the food to you? Of course they're going to say this. They're going to say anything for you to buy it. And if you think the law is going to protect you, think again. Laws don't actually protect people. Laws don't always have your best interest in mind. Laws are there for certain people to benefit, not all people. Especially in today's day and age, laws that are created are so jumbled. There's so much smoke and mirrors that it'll make you think they have your best interest in mind when it's truly not, right? And that's where the idea of life is too complicated comes in. Because how are you supposed to know all these things in all these different subjects, in all these different ideologies, and like that's just one example of organic food. And I didn't even really fully touch upon it, except the fact that I saw a video that legally companies can put organic for certain specific reasons, but it does not actually mean that that food is necessarily healthier or better for you in any way. We live in a consumer world, so people will do anything and everything, whether it's lawful or unlawful, whether they create the law themselves so that they can make this happen, so that they can make more money. And then even then, because I saw one video of some lawyer or attorney saying, oh yeah, legally companies are allowed to put organic and it's not truly healthier. Because I saw one video, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that makes sense. But is that true? Unless you start to do your own research, you won't truly know. And even in doing your own research, the information that you find may be false again. So how do you actually know? And we don't live in a society where life is simple, where you can manage all aspects of your personal life, of your individual life. So that's why I say life is too complicated. Because you may think, as an individual, I don't have time to think about whether the food I get is actually healthy or not. I have other worries to worry about, other things to worry about. That's the least of my worries. I just consume whatever I can consume. Or whether, for example, I don't involve myself in politics. As in, I don't pay attention to politics at all because I feel like it's way too complex. Politics in America is so divided and so polar, yet no side truly has your best interests in mind. It's only about their interests. And there's a lot of false information. There's a lot of selfish motives, and a lot revolves around the economy and power. But then apparently it goes even deeper than that. It's not just about economy and politics and power. There is more at play here, and it is a deep, deep rabbit hole. It's a conspiracy. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of fake stuff. So in politics, yes, I choose to be completely ignorant. I'd rather be uninformed than ill-informed. Because then you choose a side, or you choose an idea to support. But not all aspects of the ideology you completely agree with. Or the ideology that you do support is not truly what it portrays itself to be. Politics is a dirty, dirty game in America and all across the world. And that's just one aspect of living. Then there's religion. Then there's relationships. There's psychology. There's philosophy. There's theories. There's math. There's science. There's physics. There's cultures, an infinite amount of cultures and subcultures. There's macro. There's micro. Theories, conspiracies, ideologies, people, and it's never ending. It's extremely, extremely difficult to keep up with. So in a previous video that I made on the main channel, I was talking about how in your 20s, your mind is almost fully mature, if not fully mature. So now you can ask more questions. You have more grasp of comprehension. But maybe knowledge is not the best thing to happen to you. Maybe it's better to have an innocent, young, unrefined, undeveloped, uninfluenced mind. Because now you don't have to worry about things that, to be honest, don't really matter. There are a lot of things that we worry ourselves with that we shouldn't. But it's unfortunate because we have a lot of time. More time than we know what to do with. Because of the advancement of technology, one huge aspect that a lot of people overlook is as society advances, as we advance in technology, basically, it allows us more time to do other things. For example, AI. The current advancement of today's society is AI. AI essentially allows us to not have to spend so much time researching or problem solving. So if we're spending less time researching and problem solving, what are we doing with that extra time? Well, some may be spending that time in things that really, really matter, that will improve their individual personal life, improve society as a whole. And for others, we're wasting that time, which is unfortunate. Now, I know this talk or this video wasn't very centered, was kind of jumbled and all over the place. Yeah, today was the first video in this format. Kind of just wanted to try it out. But basically, that was what was kind of on my mind past few days. I'm sure there'll be other topics, maybe more specific topics, maybe even broader topics for future videos to come. Pretty fun, pretty interesting, at least for me personally. But I think for today, that is all, because we're coming up on an hour of recording here. So no problems actually solved or solutions actually found. Thinking and overthinking. Trying to grasp and understand something that is very, very extremely hard to attain. Almost unattainable. But other than that, thank you for watching. Appreciate you guys for coming out. If you did stay until the end, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. And stay tuned for more, I guess.